Hey everybody, welcome to the Tortured Man, Mancast, episode 33, week 6 reactions from this past NFL, which we have quite a few. And there's a lot of things that we'd like to talk about today, and we got a short time to do it in, try to squeeze this all into 60 minutes or less. And the first thing I'd like to start off with before we get to our predictions from last week and for next week, one of the things that I'd like to get going on here immediately is that everybody needs to slow down a little bit. This idea, I call it team jealousy. And for those who aren't Chiefs fans, and I wouldn't count myself among them, although I do enjoy watching them because they arguably have the greatest quarterback that may be the greatest quarterback that ever played by the time the whole thing's said and done. And he's fun to watch. And I get if you don't like Kelsey anymore because he's a screaming liberal fool. I get that too. But the idea that the Chiefs are actually 5-1 because the Chiefs are 5-1 based on officials favoring them is silly and it is stupid. And no more silly or stupid than when everybody said that about the Patriots. And it's no more silly or stupid when everybody said it about the Niners or the Redskins back in the 80s or Dallas in the 90s. It's the best teams. Every other team hates them. And so they make these reaches about calls. There's bad calls in every game. Sometimes the Chiefs get calls that go their way that maybe they shouldn't, and vice versa. That's part of the game. But we have talked about this on this show a lot, and then I'll pass it to Chad. Unless it is so egregious, and by the way, you don't have another week to play to make it up, and it's in the playoffs or something, then if you can change a game on one call, like I keep bringing up this year, the Rams and the Saints a few years ago, where that one call literally cost the Saints the Super Bowl, you have an argument. Outside of that, you don't. So if we could just stop with your team's better than mine jealousy, boy, that would be great. So everybody could just shut the fuck up about it, please. I'd appreciate it. Chad, what do you got to say, brother?
Well, another example of a just blatantly obvious, refs throwing the game, handing somebody, a gift and everybody understanding it, except for maybe the Raider homers, is Tom Brady and the tuck rule. That certainly seemed like one of those gifts that we've never seen before and won't see again. So with that being said, I used to be this guy. I used to be this guy against Tom Brady and the Patriots. And I remember giving a bunch of shit to a friend of mine named Josh, who was in my PhD program. And he's from Massachusetts. And so he, big Patriots fan, and was like, oh no, they don't get favorites. They don't get favorites. I'm like, dude, they definitely get played favorites by the refs. And he started digging into the data, and being that we were in a PhD program, I couldn't really poo-poo the data. I had to look at them for what they were and be honest. And it was like, well, shit, you got me, dude. It doesn't look like, statistically at least, Tom Brady was getting any better favoritism than anybody else, except for, I can give you a couple of examples where it's like, oh my God. But as far as like drawn out over the course of his career, the numbers didn't bear that out. So let me just do this real quick to show all these other people from the other side now, that the stats don't bear it out for Kansas City either. So in the first 5 games that the Chiefs have played this season, they've had a total of 33 penalties for a total of a loss of 266 yards. Their opponents, 23 penalties for 198 yards. So you can't say that, the Chiefs have done any better. The Chiefs have clearly done worse. As 10 more penalties than their opponents over the first 5 games. Let's talk about when it matters most, right? Because that's the next argument. It isn't necessarily the amount of flags thrown; it's when they're thrown, right? So let's just look at the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, the first 5 games played by the Chiefs, Kansas City has 12 penalties. Their opponents have 10. So we've got more. Here's a great one. In the Mahomes era, from 2018 until now, the Chiefs have the 3rd most accepted penalties overall, and the 7th most in the fourth quarter or in overtime. 146 Q4 or overtime penalties accepted. So we're in the top 5 to 7 on both of those. Roughing the passer penalties. Seems like Mahomes is getting babied all the time, right? No. 94 games played, he's had 20 roughing calls. That's 0.21 per game. Patrick Mahomes 0.21, Russell Wilson 0.22, Deshaun Watson, 0.22. Jimmy Garoppolo, 0.23. Herbert, 24. Tannehill, 27. Cousins, 27. Goff, 28. Fitzpatrick was 28. Josh Allen. Anyway,
Correct me
all
if I'm
those
wrong,
guys,
though,
all those guys are
but out of
higher.
that 0.28 that Jimmy Garoppolo has suffered, don't half of them turn into season-ending injuries?
That should count for something. But this is only people who've played the same amount of games, and it's average. So here's average flags per game, thrown per game, and you get Patrick Mahomes is getting more laundry. And like I told you, if you wanted to look at by the third down roughing calls, so the bigger savior than Patrick Mahomes gets 25%, Kirk Cousins gets 35%, Baker Mayfield 33%, Justin Herbert 33%. So anyway, the stats don't bear it out, folks. Put that shit to
They just
bed.
don't, and
The
they
Chiefs
never
should just
have.
win because the Chiefs do that. The Chiefs win.
Now, there is something else that's on my mind for this week's discussion before we get into the meat of everything. And one of those things is for anybody who's out there like me thinking that the NFL football is extremely sloppy and shitty and the games aren't really that good. Well, you're right, because they're just not. So here are some statistics that I worked out today. From weeks 2 through 5, the reason I don't bring up week number 1 primarily is because week number 1, so much weird stuff happens because it's the very first week of the NFL. So I didn't even look back that far. So, but 2, 3, 4, and 5, that's 4 weeks of football. There were teams that scored 21 points or less to win the game was only 9 games. And that seems fair enough to me. That's 4 weeks. That's a little over 2 a game. Whoop-de-doo. Yesterday alone, there was 9. Just yesterday. Now, I doubt that's going to happen tonight because I'm pretty sure the Bolts are going to score like fucking 155 points on Dallas tonight and just make them eat their lunch because they're garbage. And that's look, I'm going to be fair. I fucking hate the Cowboys, and that's why I like making fun of them. But here's a couple other things. Yesterday, up until yesterday, all year, that includes week 1, there were 4 quarterbacks who started and finished the game who threw for less than 100 yards. Yesterday, there was 4 of those quarterbacks to match the whole season. That's quarterbacks crazy. Under 200 yards yesterday were 17. And for the whole entire year so far, 61 total games under 200 yards passing for a team in the NFL. That's extraordinarily ridiculous. Quarterbacks over 300 yards, which in today's pass crazy game is like, I thought, the norm almost. There were 6 games. There were 6 quarterbacks who threw for over 300 yards yesterday, and their record was 2-4. 2-4. How do you throw for over 300 yards and you go 2-4? And points scored per game is down over. It's exactly 3.2 points per game per team. That's 6.4 points per game this year. That's a full touchdown less, and that's based against last year, which was down from the norm over the course of a 10 or so year period. And my theory on this now is Chad and I in pre-production were talking. It seems to me that going to the 17-game schedule and because of guaranteed contracts, which all happened pretty much at the same time, that in the preseason, owners, GMs, and coaches are no longer willing to put their starters in games. And when they hit the ground running, it's the first time they're really playing. And they're not ready for the season yet. And things start really slowly. And yesterday, whether it was a hiccup or not, I think that the NFL got it wrong on the 17-game season. They need to revert back. It's an embarrassment. This is the NFL. 4 starting quarterbacks who finished the game couldn't even throw for 100 yards in the game. There's no excuse for that in the NFL. That didn't even happen in the 1950s. Why is it happening now? So I think the NFL is got to take a good hard look at this, because this is in the 1950s, 60s, or 70s, or any other era. These games, it was the 80s when everything started to shift to offense. Everything favors the offense in today's NFL. You got 4 starting quarterbacks who couldn't even muster 100 friggin' yards passing. They literally, over the last 10 years, have made the running back almost obsolete, and you still can't throw for 100 yards in a game? That's embarrassing, and the NFL should be embarrassed, and this problem needs to be fixed. End rant. What do you got to say on that, Chad?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and say that at least one of those quarterbacks was facing a very difficult defense, and he's washed up by the name of Russell Wilson. The Chiefs, I'm sorry, but the Chiefs are a legit top 5 defense, bro. That D is firing on all cylinders, and they are hard to fucking beat. And they're getting back up now because Charles Omenihu is off of his 6-game suspension, and he'll be back this week when we face the Chargers on Sunday. So that don't look now, but the Chiefs finally, under the Andy Reid era, have put together a top 5 D, an elite defense.
They're playing very well, no argument.
And that's a good thing because the offense is fucking struggling.
Well, the offense is struggling. And so what concerns me for Kansas City overall in this conversation offensively, and I've been saying it for weeks now, is you can't have one receiver, regardless if that guy plays tight end, allegedly. We'll call him a wide receiver, tight end, whatever he wants to be called. And I love Kelsey in terms of his athletic ability and what he does at the tight end, because he's one of the best of all time. So I'm not going to sit and argue about that. But when you have a receiver on your team and he's catching 50% of everything, yards, touchdowns, more than 50%, and receptions, that's a massive problem. And if Kansas City can't get their wide receiver skill positions to where these guys can get separation and where they can make things happen, which they did last year, but then like Harden going to the Jets and stuff like that, that hurt them, and it's continuing to hurt them. And Kelsey can't be all things, because we saw how the Jets filled in those dead spots. And by the way, we're going to get to that. The Jets defense is insane, bro. But I think it's interesting overall that NFL defenses, no matter how hamstrung they are by the NFL offices, are figuring it out. And we're going to get into these game by game as we go down, because both Chad and I did well. I'm 11-3 currently with tonight's game. Chad is 10-4. There was a lot of good stuff that happened yesterday, and a lot of things that are to the discussion that we're having, moving us forward. There are a lot of things that are happening on the defensive side of the ball that I find very interesting. Defensive coordinators are figuring it out, and it's slowing the NFL down, which overall, I watched a few games yesterday. I have to watch them all in parts, but to actually sit and watch games, generally they were boring. They were just fucking boring.
Back to the Chiefs. So one big thing that really hosed us early on, I got them confused. I don't know if you recall last time you were talking about Rashee Rice, and I was thinking it was a guy we brought over from the Giants, but I was actually thinking of Richie James, who played over there with Kadarius Toney, and promising young guy, and an early first round pick too. And thing is, like, he in preseason, I'm like, this is going to be the dude. This is going to be the dude that's going to be vying for that number 1 slot. And then he fucked his MCL up right out the gate, I think against the Lions first game, and got placed on injured reserve. So hopefully he comes back, at some point in the next few games or something, because we could use a dude. And I do think the rookie Rashee Rice, as you noticed last time, he is taking big steps. And
yeah, he struggled out of the gate, but these last couple of games, he had 4 catches over this last weekend, and he's not a primary target, right? So he's a check down kind of guy. But he's now catching the ball, and he's finding soft spots in the defense, and that's huge. Yeah. And I think moving forward, right now he's playing spot duty in the slot, and I think he's going to become a very reliable number 2 after Kelsey if he keeps along this trajectory. I was very happy to see how Kadarius Toney played this last weekend too. It's his best game of the year on Thursday night, and I enjoyed watching him play because I thought he was going to be a whole lot better this year, and I was just bitching last weekend. And Thursday night, he stepped up a little bit, and he looked really good. And not just out of the backfield or playing in the slot, but he was picking up key blocks that were opening other things up. The little things that most people don't notice when they're watching a football game, and that's huge too. So, and I really like their running back. He just needs a little more room to operate the offensive line, still trying to get cohesive. I'm not worried about the Chiefs. The Chiefs are going to be in the AFC Championship game. I'm not worried about them at all.
Yeah, Rashee Rice, 4 catches for 72.
That's a good night, man.
That's
for a rookie.
Man.
That's a good night.
Caught every target
on prime time, right? With all the spotlight on you. So can't argue that.
Sky Moore, our second-year guy that we picked up last year, he needs to just go.
Yeah.
He's basically non-existent.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. And he looked great at the end of last year.
Yeah, and Valdez-Scantling is like completely nowhere to be found. So anyway, like I said last time, I'll say it again. By the closer to the end of the season, you'll start seeing a couple of those receivers, step to the front of the
I think so too, because Pat will just get more comfortable. With different receivers. In my case, I think it's going to be number 4. I think that's the guy. He's starting to show more promise in him. He's starting to get more balls towards him. Now, look, I'd like to see him catch 6 or 8 passes in a game and get a little bit of the weight off of Kelsey. And I think they'll do that as they move forward, and they'll find soft spots for him and take advantage of his talents better. But I think that this kid could really develop, and I was really impressed with him on Thursday. Of course, the Chiefs beat the Broncos, who I don't think that there's a worse quarterback currently in the NFL, and that includes rookies like Bryce Young, who have been playing like garbage. Actually played pretty good yesterday.
You know what's funny? If you look at Russell Wilson's stats, they're fucking good.
Well, how was throwing for less than 100 yards a good stat?
No, I mean prior to this past game. If him and Pat had like identical stats going into that game, dude. Weird.
You're looking at something that I wasn't looking at.
I swear to God, it's the weirdest fucking thing.
Because he was like, when it came to yards and Q rating, he was like in the bottom third of the NFL. Man.
I'm telling you, no.
The Pat's been playing great.
Check it out.
So we'll go to the next game.
Last thing I want to say about the Chiefs, and then I want to move on. Yes, they were playing a shitty opponent, so they busted out even more of those stupid cutesy plays, and they were fucking around and goofing off because it was basically a glorified practice for them. But Andy, come on, man. I'm done with all these fucking cutesy plays. Let's chill the fuck out with all that shit.
Let's
move forward.
I agree, but I'll say this. Andy Reid, I watched him in Philadelphia for many, many, many years because I was a consummate Redskin fan at that point in my life. And Andy Reid does this. When he has an opposition team that has no chance of beating them, he experiments with crap to see what he can get away with. Because he wasn't look, if they were playing the Buffalo Bills, that shit never would have happened in a million years. But the Broncos had no chance of winning, so he didn't give a shit. And look, there are plenty of times when Andy Reid's Philadelphia Eagles, because he was there for like 12 years and they won like 12 division titles or whatever. But Andy wasn't going to play those games with a division rival unless they were garbage. And at that time, the Giants were the garbage, and you would see that kind of stuff going on. You're not going to see that anymore. But if he was playing, like I said, the Bills or Cincinnati or the Eagles or the Niners or the Lions, they did play the Lions. Right. They didn't pull any of that bullshit.
Right.
Ravens versus the Titans. We both took the Ravens. The Ravens won.
Yep.
Lamar Jackson looked fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always big on that. Zay Flowers is really stepping up for them. I'm very happy to see that going on. That defense is always good. The Titans, they did okay. Titans defense is half bad. And to be fair, Derrick Henry, when you get behind, the running back doesn't get the ball. That dude was averaging 8.7 yards a carry, right? Just under 100 yards, but they only gave him the ball 12 times, right?
I don't get it, man.
If the Titans got to do anything.
If that horse is running, you better ride him. What the fuck?
The Panthers hung with the Finns. Not at all. They jumped out straight away. They looked great in the first quarter. And then it was all downhill after that as they got smacked 42-21. But as bad as it looked for the Panthers, Bryce Young actually had his best game. He looked good. He was composed. He threw for like 65%. He didn't turn a goddamn ball over, and he threw for a couple of touchdowns. So I've been busting his chops. I still don't think he's the guy, but he played a pretty good game. So I'll give props where props deserve to go. Then we got the Saints and the Texans. The Saints won in a very boring game. But I will say this. Well, we took the Saints. The Saints didn't win. The Texans won. Excuse me. C.J. Stroud had his first turnover, but his team is currently 4-2 or 3-3. But he's playing really good. He played great when it mattered. They beat a team that no one expected they would. Well, it sounds like the Saints are great, but the Texans are doing really well. And here's the thing I like to bring up about C.J. Stroud. He has no offensive help at all. And his team's at 500 and one game out of first place in the AFC South. So this kid is going to be NFL Rookie of the Year because what he's doing with a team that literally has no offensive help at all, and he's a rookie quarterback, 1 interception in 6 NFL games, and he's 3-3. It's very impressive to me.
Dude, no doubt about it, man. He deserves all the accolades, dude. He's having a great start to his career.
The Foreskins played the Falcons on Sunday, and they won, which I expect them to do. Sam Howell actually looked pretty good. I think Atlanta, their quarterback, Riddle, is terrible. The 3 interceptions he threw were god-awful. This isn't like tipped balls or somebody jumps a route with perfect precision or anything. He's throwing into lanes where there's no business to be throwing at all. It is god-awful. He is one of the 6 that put up 300-plus yards passing and lost because when you turn the ball over that often, you're probably going to lose. Atlanta's not going to win with him. And I don't know what's going on with Bijan Robinson. He's clearly not fully healthy. Yeah. And they need to put him not on IR, but they need to either limit him or put him on the sideline until he is 100% because he's truly the only weapon that they have right now.
Right.
The Colts and the Jags, that's a no-brainer. The Jags totally smoked them. The Jags defense is getting quite scary. Josh Allen, not the quarterback at the Bills, but Josh Allen, the D end for the Jags, is every week. I mean, if you were watching him in just a plain white uniform with no insignia, you would think it was TJ or JJ Watt out there. He is killing it right now. And I'm a Jags fan, so I'm totally happy about that. But Ridley, Ingram, and Evans are all doing an amazing job. Trevor Lawrence has so many weapons to throw to. It's silly. We talked about them last week. I think the Jags are a frightening team moving forward. Now, I didn't expect the Colts to win, but this is a division rivalry, and they totally throttled them. Totally.
Well, Gardner Minshew decided he was going to act like he was playing for the Falcons, and he was Ritter over there fucking chucking 3 interceptions.
Well, that's the reason Gardner Minshew isn't a starter, generally speaking.
Just like Ritter, though, over 300 yards, but three picks.
And he's a loss. Whereas, Trevor Lawrence is in that 200 range, but played a flawless game. Checked down well.
One pick.
Yes.
2 touchdowns, 1
but
pick.
Yeah. I'll watch that whole game. His pick was a tipped ball. It's not like he threw it right into some lane where he never should have been approaching, right? This is another thing that I have with the picks in the NFL. If the ball is tipped at the line or it hits the receiver and it goes flying out into nowhere land, why is that charged against the quarterback?
Yeah, I don't know why. It should.
I never got that, ever. But to be fair, a few of your picks are going to be like that throughout the season. But today's NFL, picks are at the lowest numbers they've ever been at in NFL history. I mean, back in the heyday of the NFL in the 70s and the 80s, as the game took over baseball and basketball and everything else as the national game. Back then, guys like Terry Bradshaw threw more interceptions and touchdowns oftentimes in a year, and that's not the way it works anymore.
Nope.
The Hawks and the Bengals, another boring ass friggin' game. The Bengals won, which we both expected them to win, but man, that was just a bad, ugly football game. 17-13.
Was.
This is the NFL, man. That's a high school score. College football puts on a better show than this. It's just getting on my nerves. The Vikings and the Bears, again, 19-13. Blah! It was garbage, total garbage. I am sad to see the Bears quarterback going down. He gets a bad rap all the time. I'm a big proponent of his. He deserves better than he's getting, and now it looks like he's going to be out for a while.
And this kid they have to replace him with is a nobody.
Yeah, it's garbage. It's just garbage. Niners and Browns. This game shocked me for two reasons. The week before, I had been the most reluctant person on earth to say that Brock Purdy is a legit NFL quarterback, and I finally admitted that. And then he goes out and throws for 44% and plays like total dog shit.
He did play like dog shit.
I mean, dog shit, dude. It was ugly. Happened? But I'll give him one prop. He did drive that team down the field with very little time, put them in a position to win.
Yeah.
And their kicker flubbed it because he kicked it from 44 or 41 yards, and the NFL average is that's 88% or something that they make it. So now they were playing in some shitty weather and that kind of stuff, but at least he got them there. I'll give him that.
That kicker's clutch too. I was surprised he missed it.
But the rest of that was garbage. And now everybody will say, well, they came off an emotional game with Dallas. They've been playing so good. And then there was wind and there was rain and blah, blah, blah. You are playing against a quarterback that no one knows his name. I don't even know his name because Deshaun Watson is out. And not only that, Nick Chubb, one of the top 3 running backs in the NFL, gone, not even playing. And somehow they still managed to win. So don't tell me that Deebo Samuel went out of the game and that Christian McCaffrey went out of the game. They were playing with a guy who barely makes a living in the NFL, comparatively speaking. Nobody knows who he is. And the number 3 running back in the NFL is gone, probably for the season. And your best wide receiver is hurt. Come on, man. This kid was playing with less than San Francisco still had, and they won. So there's no excuses for them losing.
I'm going to say this, that Browns defense is the number one, dude. It's the top.
Statistically speaking, they've given up less yards than any defense since the Purple People Eaters of the Minnesota Vikings in the 1970s. We're going back almost 50 years. So I get that part of it. I do. I'm not arguing against that. But Brock Purdy doesn't, or San Francisco fans don't get to say that Deebo Samuel or that McCaffrey came out of the game was the problem for him when Cincinnati offensively, because if the number 2 defense then would be the 49ers if Cleveland's number 1, and they were playing with a guy who nobody even knows his name or knows nothing about his college experience because nobody knows who he is, and he's playing without his number 1 running back, number 3 in the entire NFL from last year, and his number 1 wide receiver is gone. So how is it different, right? They're without their starting quarterback.
I've always felt like this was San Francisco's fate, that they were going to be this absolute assassin of a team until your CMC or somebody like that gets injured, and then especially McCaffrey, and then they fucking struggle.
If this kid struggles because of the loss of these playmakers, then it's going to be a hard season. I don't know how long Deebo is going to be out, but it's going to be a few weeks, and it looks like it's the same for McCaffrey.
Mm-hmm.
So trouble is on the horizon because I'll tell you this right now. Here's the difference between good NFL quarterbacks, which I'm not saying he's not. He is.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a difference between good and elite. Patrick Mahomes last year lost the best wide receiver in the NFL, period,
Mm-hmm.
and won a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what elite quarterbacks do.
Mm-hmm.
Brock Purdy is not an elite quarterback. The fact that I said last week that I finally am willing to admit that he's a good quarterback, do not mistake that for elite. He's just good.
Yep.
If he doesn't make mistakes and he has his playmakers, they're very dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not Pat Mahomes or Josh Allen or Joe Burrow or Jalen Hurts, not real elite quarterbacks. He's not that guy. And yesterday shows that. But if the pieces are there, they'll do okay. It'll be interesting what they do moving forward right now because they're going to be down a guy or two. Can he pick it up?
Right.
We're going to know a lot more. The Pats and the Raiders, 7 people saw this game. And but interestingly, because I look these things up on the internet, 7 people saw this game and 420 hated it. It was garbage all day long. Anybody, this is why I love guys who love teams like the Chiefs and guys who stick with their fucking Redskins, even though the owner for 20 years is a giant piece of shit. Because we're real fans. Mm-hmm. The Patriots now have 12 fans in the United States. Just a couple of years ago, they had 48 trillion, and it's all the way down to 8 because they're bandwagon jumpers. And everybody who jumped on their bandwagon because of Tom Brady and Bill Belichick have already exited the show, and now none of them are fans anymore because Patriots. That is a bad football team.
It's a really bad team. They're going nowhere fast.
No.
I want to say one thing to NFL Red Zone. I absolutely love the NFL Red Zone. I pay a little extra money every month to get it because I like to be able to see every game coming in live as they're getting into the red zone. And I understand the later window, there's fewer games and there's less action, so you have to find things to talk about. But please don't cut to the Patriots and the Raiders. Nobody wants to see that shit. Nobody believes they're in the red zone. I know you're pretending like it because they're at the 23. It's like, well, that's still not the red zone. I know it's close, but nobody wants to see that. Okay, I understand everybody else is a commercial, but just show the commercial. We don't need to see the Pats and the Raiders.
That's right.
Thank you. Moving on.
Look, in the red zone. I mean, that guy jumped in and said, okay, we're going to take a look at the Raiders and the Patriots right now. We're deep into the third quarter. They have 12 total forward yards. It's just stop it. Lions and the Bucks. I expected this fully. The Lions are legit. The Lions, along with the 49ers and the Eagles, are legit contenders. Anybody who's wondering if the Lions are faking this, they are not. They're doing very, very well. They're playing really sound football. I would have liked to see them. They could have scored more. So this is one of those games under 21 points, but it was 20-6. You won by 2 touchdowns. That's a solid win.
Yeah.
And the Bucks, by the way, were playing very well. And this is the first team that made Baker Mayfield look like Baker Mayfield.
True.
Cards and the Rams, well, that went exactly the way everybody expected. I'm a huge Matt Stafford fan. He looked great, and they're
he's got Puka.
Enough there. Eagles, the Jets defense. Let's talk about Cleveland. The Jets have played Pat Mahomes. They have played Jalen Hurts, and they have played Josh Allen. They're 2-1 against those teams. And not a single one of those fuckers threw for over 200 yards against that defense. Here's another thing that's very interesting. 2 offensive touchdowns, 8 interceptions in those 3 games. That's ridiculous. The Jets are for real. And if Zach can continue not to make mistakes and just allow that offense to score enough points to win, that defense can carry them. And they did that yesterday without the sauce because he got injured very early in that game. And that dude, by the way, may end up being, except for this side of the Eagles DT, he's going to be the AFC Defensive Rookie of the Year because he's playing out of his fucking mind. I mean, this kid is Darrell Revis Part 2. I mean, he's that good. So very interesting what happened there. The Jets are now legit, man. I mean, they are legit. And if Aaron Rodgers can make it back for the playoffs, things can get very interesting. And he keeps saying he's going to, but I think that's all predicated upon if he beats Anthony Fauci and Travis Kelce in a debate. And then the Giants Bills. I got to be honest. I didn't watch that game. I tried, but I fell asleep because it was boring as shit. Terrible. This is the most exciting thing that happened in that entire game. So when the Giants were introducing their offense, as they do with the little pictures, I'm Saquon Barkley, Penn State University. They had a guard, Justin Pugh. He introduced himself this way: Justin Pugh, straight off the couch. Because just 4 days ago, Justin Pugh was sitting on his couch because the Giants' offensive line is in that big of a shambles. He was literally not in the NFL 4 days ago. And so he was straight off the couch. That was the funniest thing I saw all day yesterday. I was dying when he said that last night. I was on the floor. I thought that was the greatest thing I ever saw.
My man wasn't lying.
He wasn't. He was straight off the couch. All right.
Man, I thought they were going to pull it out, man. I thought the Bills were going down, and there's a pretty egregious, hold there at the end. But so that's what everybody's talking about. But just like with the Chiefs, man, you can't blame it all on that one thing. So, yeah, you didn't get the touchdown because there was a guy hanging on, but. You got to do it. You got to make it for some other time.
Well, obviously, the Bills are the better football team. The Giants are a whole lot of a mess. And I don't know. Tyrod Taylor and that whole thing at the end was just bizarre. Mm-hmm. Just weird. But that's what happens when you have a guy who probably really shouldn't be in the NFL being your quarterback because the guy you're paying $180 million guaranteed dollars to is injured. Yeah, and not that good to begin with.
He threw for more yards than Allen, though. But 2 less touchdowns, so that doesn't count.
Right. Well, that matters, points and all. So it's a thing in the NFL. So
yeah.
All right. So we got to get to next week's games. So right now, Dallas is winning 10-7 at the half.
Yep.
And Skip Bayless is probably jacking off.
Oh yeah, he's already busted twice.
All right. So Thursday night, we got the Jags and the Saints. The Jags are a good football team, and the Saints aren't. They're just average. So I got Jags all day.
Let me get my paper here. Okay. Jags Saints, definitely going Jags.
The next game is the Falcons and the Buccaneers. Ritter, he's there's no vote of confidence in that organization for him, and that gets into your head, and that affects you, especially when you're a young green quarterback, and that they're just waiting to put somebody else in. And the Buccaneers, they've been playing good football, generally speaking, and it's in Tampa, so I'm taking the Bucs.
Yeah, I think I have to take the Bucs this time too because of Riddle. Ritter just keeps fucking shit in the bed. So
in a football game that is going to see who can put me to sleep the fastest, the Raiders and the Bears. The Bears have lost their quarterback, who was the only thing that they actually had. I just don't see how they move forward without him. He's Justin Fields. He's dislocated his thumb on his throwing hand. There's just no way he's playing. He's all they got. Um, I got to go with the Raiders.
Raiders here. As much as I hate them, I got to go with
No,
them because it is what
it
it
hurts you,
is.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we got the Browns and the Colts. Is there a discussion necessary? I got the Browns.
I'm gonna take the Browns too. You can't watch what you've just seen and doubt them anymore.
And it looks like Richardson may be done for the season.
Yep. Yeah, he's in bad shape.
Commanders and the Giants. Um, Commanders got themselves back to 500. The Giants aren't playing very well at all. Tyrod Taylor is not the answer for that offense. This is a divisional game. It'll be tough. It'll go down to the wire, but I'm going to take the former Redskins.
I'm taking the commies too. So
Lions and Ravens. This is going to be a good football game.
tough one.
This is
And it's
really
in
interesting.
Baltimore.
It's in Baltimore. Man, this is really tough. Because
What's the line? I wonder.
oh, that's interesting. But this is something I wanted to bring up too. So I'm going to do it right now while you're looking up the line. For everybody, when we say that we are predicting these games better than people who are being paid a lot of money to predict these games on all the alphabet shows from ESPN, Fox, CBS Sports, all this kind of stuff, we're doing it on a Monday night. Why the Monday night game is going a week ahead of when these games are actually going to be played, when these sumbitches are doing it the day before the game and they have all week's information in, and we're still kicking their ass.
True story.
That's why we're superior.
Ravens are a 2.5 favorite as of
That's
now.
it, just an even game, right? Home field almost gives you 3 guaranteed, right?
Yeah, that's a wash.
Man, Lions. I'm going Lions. I don't know. My gut's saying Lions. This is where you go Ravens, so you can try to make up some space on me.
Yeah. My gut's definitely saying Lions too, but
I'm gonna go Lions.
Ravens at home could totally win.
Oh yeah,
like
absolutely.
You said, it is an opportunity.
These teams are very even.
It is an opportunity for me to gain some ground, so I'm gonna roll the dice on the Ravens.
Next, we got Bills Patriots. There's no discussion here.
What?
Cards Seahawks. The Seahawks will get healthy. The Cards are terrible. The Cards are so bad that the only team that they can beat in the NFL is the Cowboys.
Right.
So I'm going to Hawks.
Seahawks it is for me too.
Then we got the Steelers and the Rams. I think that's actually a really good football game. I'm going with the Rams only because the Rams are at home. That's the only reason.
And I'm going to go with the Steelers because it'll give me an opportunity to make my wife happy. root for her team, you know.
Chargers, Chiefs. So this is. I'm taking the Chiefs are at home.
Thanks. Me too.
I was going to pretend like there was some other stuff going on there, but no.
I was like, fucking be my guest, bro. especially the Chiefs have a little bit of a fucking advantage here because not only is it at home, we played on Thursday.
Right.
They're playing
on Monday, so it's a short week for them.
They're playing tonight. Yeah, they're playing tonight, and they got to fly to Kansas City.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. That's some bullshit right there in the schedule. So, hey, it's not the refs, people. It's scheduling. That's what's helping the Chiefs. Packers and Broncos. If there's one team Jordan Love can beat, it's the Broncos. I got the Pack.
You going with the Pack?
Oh, yeah.
What's their record?
Does it matter? They're playing the Broncos.
Yeah, I know. You're right. Packers it is.
And it doesn't even matter if it snows or anything else because they're the Packers, so it's not like it's going to bother them. Dolphins.
Oh, I know. But
Dolphins, Eagles on Sunday night. Woohoo! Fuck.
And that's in
Philly.
Oh, man. What a freaking show that's going to be.
Oh, man. So this is what I'll say. The Dolphins' offense has been pretty goddamn good. But the Dolphins have lost 2 games, and the 2 teams they played actually had good defenses, and they lost. And the Eagles have a great defense. If Jalen Carter is playing again, because he didn't play yesterday, if he's healthy enough to play, because he's going to be NFC Rookie of the Year on defense. The kid's amazing, just like we thought he would be. And the Eagles are at home, and it's going to be on a Sunday night in Philadelphia in late October. I'm going with the Eagles.
I'm going to go with the Eagles as well, and honestly, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I think it's going to look like when the Finns played the Bills. The Finns are fucking scary, and I said they're one of the scariest teams in the league right now because they can put up so many points. But they've done that against shit teams, and the one they've played that's been good, they've got their asses completely handed to them.
Right,
so
it's true. And then it's the Niners and the Vikings. The Vikings are no match for the Niners, and they're just not having a good year. There's no way I'm going against the Niners. And I think this, to me, with the Niners, this gives Brock Purdy the opportunity, because he's going to be without Deebo Samuel for sure. My guessing, he's probably going to be without Christian McCaffrey as well. And it'll be, but he's got so many other weapons. So he should be able to win this game. They're going to be playing indoors, so it'll be a fast track. It's got a great defense. The Niners should beat the Vikings without much of a problem, with or without those 2 players. So we'll see if Brock Purdy can take over and run the offense and do the necessary things without 2 of his best playmakers. It'll be interesting.
Yeah. If it weren't the Vikings, I'd probably say that they have a chance to win here. I mean, but they're just not doing very good this season. But they are at home. I don't know, man. I can't see San Fran losing twice in a row. I think they're too well coached. They'll figure out how to make up for the loss of those 2 guys. And like you said, they've got plenty of other dogs. So
right, yeah,
they'll figure it out.
They still have George Kittle. They still have Aiken, and they got things going on there. So plus, I mean,
Ayuk.
That's what I meant. And by the way, they had trouble putting up. The Vikings had trouble. They didn't even score 20 points against the Bears. Right. I mean, they won last week, but they beat the Bears by less than a touchdown. Who lost Justin Fields, the only real offensive player they have. So yeah, beat the 49ers? No way in hell.
Yeah, I can't see it.
No, it's just silly. That's just silliness to me. And so the third quarter just started. It's 10-7.
Without their 2 top running backs, though, who is going to run the rock for the Niners? I don't even know who they got behind those cats.
No, it's a good question. Look it up. Let's look it up.
Okay, 49ers.
49ers depth chart. So Mason was a guy after McCaffrey went out who got the bulk of the carries.
And Jordan Mason and Elijah Mitchell are the.
Yeah, and Mitchell ran 2 times for -3 yards.
Right.
But Mason had 5 for 27 and a touchdown. So, I mean, that's who they're going to be going with. They still have Ayuk and Jenkins. They're going to have to get the ball more to Kittle, obviously. He only had 1 catch. Yeah. And Kittle's a good tight end, man.
Yeah, he is. And they still have Juszczyk. He's a big old monster fullback. And they got guys. And they have a hell of a coach. So they'll figure it out.
Oh, yeah. I have no idea. That's something, too. By the way, the 49ers against the defensive coordinator Schwartz for Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
He's 1-9 lifetime against him as a defensive coordinator.
Oh, wow.
So that is a
Can we talk
guy.
about?
That is a guy who has his number and understands how he runs his offense.
Yeah, kind of like I don't know. It doesn't matter who's over at the helm over in
Defensive
Denver, but
coordinator for the Cleveland Browns.
it doesn't matter
Yeah, Jim
whoever's at the
Schwartz. I
helm.
just want to make sure I got his name right because I was thinking, did I get that
Yeah,
right?
doesn't matter whoever's at the helm in Denver. The Chiefs are just gonna kill them anyway every time. So,
Well, Denver
and
is very interesting to me because Sean Payton was one of those holy grail guys, right? Like if you got Sean Payton to come in and coach your team, that everything was going to be okay and everything was going to get fixed. And the guy that he replaced not only has beaten him, but at this point, 6 weeks into the season, was doing far better than he currently is. And I would say that when I look around the NFL right now, one of my takeaways is that Sean Payton has to be one of the biggest disappointments who has just fallen flat. Look, if we're gonna have a great wide receiver, a great quarterback switch teams, and they go and they eat shit and everybody beats them up, we got to do the same thing to a coach when that happens. Sean Payton went to Denver and was supposed to resurrect them. Preseason wise, everybody was expecting them to probably go to the playoffs. They're garbage. He's done nothing to help that football team.
so yeah, 14 in a row now. The Chiefs have beaten the Broncos. And so now they're doing like a fire sale and they're starting to cut loose to some guys. And they're talking about letting Judy go. And they've already Frank Clark. So Frank Clark, who was a Chief edge rusher, and the Chiefs let him go because he was ready for a new big beefy contract. And Chiefs are like, "Yeah, we're good, old boy. Thanks for your help, but you're getting a little long in the tooth for that kind of money." So he went over and picked up a 1-year deal with Denver. And I remember in preseason when the Chiefs were going to play Denver, he was like, they were talking about the big rivalry, and Frank Clark goes, "Rivalry?" It's like, the other team has to win once in a while to call it a rivalry. He was like, it's been far as I know, it's been 13-0. So it's not really a rivalry if only one team ever wins. He's like, and I used to be on that other team and we didn't call it a rivalry. He's standing there in fucking Bronco orange, just talking mad shit to his own team. Well, then now he wanted out. He's wanted out. He didn't even play last game because he wanted out so bad. And they finally have agreed to it. He's given them $1.6 million back
Just
so
get
he
the
can
hell
get
out.
he's like, give me the league minimum. I'm getting the fuck out of here. And people are talking like maybe he'll come back to the Chiefs, but we don't need him. We got Charles Omenihu was on a 6-game suspension. You know, we brought him in, and he's that guy's going to be all we need on that edge. So, and the defense is already killing it. So we don't need Frank Clark, but I think it's hilarious how bad he wanted out of Denver.
Well, can you blame him? I mean, you can look around and see just how bad things are becoming. And in Denver, they're bad.
Yeah.
Look, they're not bad because you're a bad football team. The Cards expected to be bad this year. Nobody in the Cardinals organization is shocked by the fact that they're bad, and the only team that they're able to beat is the Dallas Cowboys. Um, but nobody expected them to be good to begin with, right? But people
Right.
expected Denver to be good, and they're eating
Yeah.
shit. Like the Bears, the Broncos, and the Cardinals are the 3 worst teams in the NFL currently. They just are. Now, 2 of those 3 teams you expected to be bad. Broncos wasn't one of them, and they're garbage. They're garbage. I mean, we all can get sucked in from time to time. I didn't get sucked into all that bullshit. I picked them to not even have a winning record. So,
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I had them towards the bottom of the whole pack too. So
but the idea that they were just going to be, and I never bought, even if Payton would have done a good job, just being 8-9, which I have them at, or 9-8, would have been
I had them.
great.
I had them at 8. I had them at 8 and 9. That would have been way better
It's
than what
great,
they're
right?
doing.
Great. They're not going to get anywhere near that number.
No.
No, there's a lot of things that are going on that are odd to me in this year's NFL, and things will straighten themselves out as they go along. I think some of the things that we can talk about. I mean, the Lions are obviously for real. They're a really good football team. The Rams are playing better football than I expected. The Eagles on offense still aren't quite clicking, which is I find fascinating. And they're still 5-1, and they're not there yet. The Niners moving forward will be interesting, but they're still a really good football team. I mean, there's just too much talent for that team not to be good. The AFC, the Chiefs are 5-1, and Patrick Mahomes is probably playing the worst 6 fucking consecutive games of his entire NFL career, and they're still 5-1. So that's only going to get better. Last Thursday, he actually was amazing, and it still concerns me that Kelsey caught more passes than the entire wide receiving core combined. That's a problem. Because that just won't, against good teams when it matters in the playoffs, that's not going to work. Your tight end can't catch 10, 12, 15 passes and be your leading receiver in yardage, touchdowns, and receptions. Because Kelsey, while he can stretch the field more than most tight ends, he's not wide receiver speed guy that can stretch the field in those kinds of ways. And so that can become problematic. Last year, when they finally got to the playoffs, they had some guys that were balling, and they'll probably get there. And I think that the Rice kid is going to be one of them. I think he'll get more and more comfortable and get more and more snaps and just become a better pro as he moves along.
I thought it was crazy that the Eagles had met the Jets 12 times throughout their history, and the Eagles have beat them 12-0. Yep. And then the lucky number 13, though, the Jets knock them down. The last undefeated team goes down.
Well, again, it's the same thing I find curious right now that's happening in Philadelphia that I just talked about with the Chiefs. It just seems like they're forcing everything to A.J. Brown. And they still have Devontae Smith, and they still have Dallas Goedert. There's no reason for that. At least they have real other options, which Kansas City doesn't currently have as well, right? So while they're developing those secondary players, A.J. Brown's a legitimate number 1 NFL wide receiver, and Devontae Smith is a great second option in anybody's offense. He'd be the number 1 guy in some offenses, right? And they got Dallas Goedert, and they're just not stretching that ball around like they did last year, and that seems odd to me. That's why I think the Eagles failed yesterday. They just weren't getting the ball to other playmakers other than all the attempts to either get it to A.J. Brown or let Jalen Hurts do whatever the hell he wants to do and run the ball. And I just don't see how that's going to work long term.
Well, I think a lot of too is, these defensive coordinators, these coaches, they have all off season to, look at the big dog, to watch the big dogs. Not only do they have all off season, they had all of the playoffs. When your team sucks, like the Jets or whatever last year, it wasn't terrible. They had some great players.
They made the playoffs.
They were definitely a quarterback away. But when you don't make the playoffs, what do your coaches do? They watch the fucking big dogs. They watch the juggernauts, and they watch for what they're fucking doing, and they analyze them left, right, up, down, day and night, all that they can. And then all through the offseason, they're focusing on who are the big dogs and what are they doing and how do you stop them. And so they've spent all this time trying to figure out how to stop them. And so they're coming into the first part of the season giving them the best thing they can give them against teams that are still doing what they were doing last season. And I think it takes partway through the season before those juggernauts go, well, we got to fucking mix it up here a little bit because they're on to us and they're playing us well. And so we're going to have to pull some more shit out of the bag and adjust a little bit about how we're operating because, we're still playing last year's style and they've already learned how to play that. You know what I mean? That's kind of a theory. I mean, it's a loose theory, but it's a theory nonetheless.
So we're coming up against our time here. The last thing I'd like to say is that Skip Bayless is the biggest piece of fucking reporting shit in the history of sports. And if I never hear that guy talk again, it'll be too soon. I listened to some of his show today and I literally vomited. It was garbage. That guy, I don't even know how he has a job. I needed to say that out loud because he pissed me off so bad today that I literally wanted to punch babies. And the reason I choose to punch babies is their heads are soft and it doesn't hurt my hand.
Let me check the polygraph. And polygraph says no lies detected, sir. So with that, folks,
And
thank you for tuning in. Hit
yes,
the like.
and we will be back again next week. Like and subscribe. We
Sub,
love when you do that, especially.
leave us a comment.
And we will see all y'all next week.
That's right.
Peace
Peace.
out.